My adult daughter is in a financial train wreck and is coming to me again for help. Advice, please. My daughter, 35, used to live a frugal lifestyle, but became an emotional spender in her mid-20s, and it's out of control. She is also the worst housekeeper imaginable, which leads to buying too much of things that can't be found and having to buy new things because necessities and frivolities get ruined. Her house is a literal pig pen of junk and garbage and crap. She has 3 cats and cleans the litter boxes about once per month. She and her first husband of 8 years divorced when he came out. They have 2 young children. He has a good job, and when they were together, they were probably bringing in $200. We live in an area where the cost of living is reasonable. He's likely making about $180K now and pays child support. Within 2 years of the divorce, she was remarried. She and husband number 2 bought a house that they simply would not be able to afford unless the sun and moon and stars aligned daily. It was a 6-bedroom house, over 3,300 finished square feet. Their combined income was in the neighborhood of $125, excluding child support. The house was $325K, and to afford it, her husband had to work at least 10 hours of overtime every week. Next thing I know, they've bought a new SUV, and then a few months later, he's sporting a brand new gigantic pickup. Then they're taking a trip to Paris for the holidays. I didn't know how much they were making, but she's a smart girl, and I assumed they were spending within their means. About 18 months into the marriage, she asked for a divorce. And that's when everything came out. They were in debt about $80K. He'd taken a new job that didn't offer overtime and was at a lesser salary, so there was no way they could pay for the house. Throughout the mess of getting the divorce, her sisters, brothers, and I gave her in excess of $5K for emergency items like a lawyer, apartment deposit, moving expenses, utility bills, etc. At that point, she came to me for help. With the sale of the house, she would be able to pay off some of her debt, but was left with about $39 in credit card debt. I considered paying about $28K for her and setting up a repayment plan, while also setting up plans for her to get her own debts under control. I expressed clearly this would require a complete change in her spending habits, as she would have to live for 5 years like she had no money, but then everything would be paid off and she'd be all good. She was focused only on my paying off a bunch of her debt, and I could see that, as we discussed ways to cut her expenses, she was brushing off every reasonable suggestion, such as no cable or streaming services, they have internet and YouTube, no weekly meals out, grocery shop at Walmart and Aldi, not Target, no daily trips to Target just because. During this time, she went a little nuts before the divorce was finalized, and 2 days after we met, she was laid off when her position was terminated. 3 days later, we got together for her birthday, and her 9-year-old daughter was wearing a $200 pair of new cowboy boots that she'd gotten 2 days before when she and her mom went to see some big-name country singer in concert out of town. At that point, I noped myself right out of helping her. She was paying me back for a few thousand in loans, and I just stopped expecting those payments, but planned to resume them when her situation improved. She was out of work for about 3 months and finally landed a job making 66% of her former salary, about $50K. I haven't asked her to resume her loan payments. She called the other day because when she got her new SUV, it was an adjustable loan. The new rate is coming up, and her payment is going to more than double to over $800 a month. She can't afford that, and she has no credit to go get a car on her own. She wants my help with that. In the last 2 weeks, she had professional family portraits taken and got a new tattoo, piercing, and a full head hair color. My credit score is 830. My only debt is my house payment, which is stupid low. I live an extremely frugal life mostly. I've got a great savings account, excellent retirement savings, and I still work and make enough to live better than I do. I am money conscientious. I do some fun things with my money, and I have earned that right. If I don't help her, she will have the car repossessed. She has to have a car, or everything spirals. Also, she is a terrible driver and has been in as many as 6 at-fault wrecks in the last 8 years. I am at a loss of how to help her because I know how she is. Someone has been there to bail her out in the last 2 years, which I believe has just made her lazy and complacent and blind to her situation. She is coming over today now, to talk about her finances. I insisted she bring everything, including all of her bills, bank account info, salary info, 401k and other retirement info, and child support. She said she'd be willing to let me help her set up a budget and plan. I've heard that before. So please, can anyone offer me any advice on how to proceed? I want to help her, but I do not want to enable her. I can't make her change, and I'm not going to try. I don't know what to do. Help, please. Now for a few comments. A user whose name was deleted said, "She has shown that she doesn't want your help. She wants your money. The way she has gotten your money is by manipulating you into believing she wants your help and or by your sympathy. She needs to experience the consequences of her actions, the actual consequences, before she can decide she wants to change. She's the only person who can change herself, and she needs to come to that conclusion on her own. Helping her keep the car isn't helping her, it's enabling her. What I would suggest is telling her to try to sell it, if she can, or not to hide it when the repo man comes knocking, because that will make her situation much worse based on her actions. Rebel Yeller replied, I appreciate your comments, thank you. Then Mellow Clock suggested, how about helping her get a therapist? Rebel Yeller responded, she does have one, but that is an entirely different story, and honestly, I think it's too long for Reddit. Another commenter, Impossible Title 1, added, if you keep helping her, she will never learn her lesson. If you are able, save some money and earmark it for helping her when she finally learns her lesson. Rebel Yeller said, oh, now that is an idea. Ifragatis commented, lots of great advice here. When following their advice, I just want to make sure you know you're a great mom no matter what she says. Rebel Yeller replied, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Farah77 added, she absolutely is. Rebel Yeller expressed gratitude. Thank you, I so much appreciate this. Nika VL advised, your daughter has an addiction to debting. Her issues go beyond money, and a budget won't fix her. Please have her check out Debtors Anonymous. There are in-person, online, and telephone meetings, so you aren't restricted to your area. Offer to sit in on a meeting with her. Check out the downloadable literature, 12 Signs of Compulsive Debting. I would also support her in connecting with a mental health professional to address her behavior. I wish you both peace and a way forward towards sanity and solvency. Rebel Yeller responded, thanks for this. She does see a health professional, but that's a whole book on its own. Finally, It's Just Meek advised, I'm 30 personally, and my advice is to stop helping her. Here's the script. My situation isn't the same, but long story short, I blew all of my money 2 years ago when I hit rock bottom. I didn't have mommy or daddy to come and save me either. Needless to say, I'm not perfect, but I'm still suffering the consequences of my own actions and paying off the massive amount of debt I owe. Lesson learned. When I finally pay this off, I can assure you, I never plan to make this mistake again. I had to grow up very fast to make sure I could still have a roof over my head. She needs to stop being enabled. I can imagine this is difficult because that's your child, and I totally understand you don't want her to crash and burn, but you've helped countless times, and she is right back to square one. You're doing the exact opposite of what your intentions are. She needs to crash and burn on her own and feel the pressure of not having the extra cushion, you anymore. It's the only way at this point. She's also an adult, not a child. She needs to take accountability for her poor spending. Now for some comments. I don't disagree at all. In fact, this is how I feel, but I was starting to think that I'm cold and heartless. I have the means to help, but I know it's not helping. I'm just now reading a lot of the answers which all seem to point the same direction. Reddit can be a cruel, cruel place, so I am mildly surprised and extremely grateful at the amount of real support I'm seeing. You are quite the opposite of cold and heartless from what I can tell through reading your post. If she makes you feel otherwise, that just further goes to show you are helping someone who is harassing your kindness. The reality is, she made poor decisions, not you. Given she's an adult, you are in no way required to help her in the way that you have. You've done that out of the goodness of your heart. Please give yourself some grace and treat yourself to a margarita. Remember Reddit Gold? You get that, and maybe I will go have a margarita. Gold, please. Now for the 8-month update. 7 months ago, I posted about my adult daughter who appeared to be actively working to ruin her life financially and was always asking for money from me, her siblings, and probably her friends. I wanted to find a way to help her. I got a lot of don't and some other good advice and some interesting advice. Here's how it all played out. She brought with her all of her debts and income papers. She was making enough money to pay her bills, including the new amount that would come due each month for her car. The problem was how and where she was spending her money. The biggest culprit was meals out. The amount was staggeringly high, nearly 1/4 of her monthly income for her and her 2 kids that she has 1 week on, 1 week off in shared custody. After reviewing all of that, I offered a few suggestions on how to immediately cut down on spending. I was met with pushback, not strong, but she wasn't really buying into my suggestions. So I asked her what she wanted, and she said, I want to be able to pay my bills and keep my car. I said, okay, stop eating out. There's $1,200 a month after you buy groceries. That's enough to pay your car and start paying off your credit cards without borrowing any money from anyone. She got angry, so I said, I'll work up a plan for you and email it over later. She left, obviously unhappy. That night, I worked out an aggressive repayment plan that would pay off her credit card debt in 2 years and still allowed for meals out a couple times a month at kids eat free places and a family entertainment night at someplace inexpensive, and even better if coupons were involved. The plan showed how to pay off the highest interest rates first, while still paying more than the monthly minimum on the other cards, and laid out how the debt would be reduced each month. I chose a 2-year repayment plan because her kids will soon be in junior high, and this would give her the income for the extra expenses that come as a result. She could have moved it to a 3-year plan, and really the only change she had to make was cut Netflix, cut the Apple Watch, and stop eating out. All the savings would go directly towards fixed expenses and debt, and if she didn't spend as much as budgeted for food, she could put it into savings. Result: silence. She cut contact with me and her sisters. She'd done this before, so we all just said fine and didn't try to work it out. Then 3 months later, I got a Venmo payment towards her loans. Her sister said she got one the same day. The payments have come each month since. A few weeks after the first one, we all saw on social media that she had taken a part-time job. Then in the last several weeks, she started sending texts. She most recently mentioned that her credit score has gone up over 200 points this year, and she's working her tail off to pay off bills. It was never my intent to give her more money or co-sign any loans. Her silence made that easier. I am not sure if someone else loaned her the money or got her a consolidation loan. It appears she has taken financial responsibility for herself and her kids and is making good progress. Now for a few more comments. Hooray! The best thing we can do for our adult kids is often nothing. You gave her the tools she needed. It was up to her to do something about it. When my oldest finally started aggressively working on their debt, watching the score go up and the debt go down was motivation enough. They aim to be debt-free this time next year. All because I basically did what you did. That is huge. You are awesome for not lashing out at her. This is purely a behavioral thing, and it's hard to criticize our loved ones without getting a little upset with their irresponsible decisions. I am glad this has turned itself around, and am hoping for the best for you and your family. Seems like you've raised a stubborn, independent, and headstrong daughter. She's doing it her way, which seems to be working. Am I the idiot for calling out my sister's lies about her husband to our entire family? I live in a small town with a lot of family. Aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, basically everyone related to me lives here. My sister Lilia married her husband Sean last year. I don't know him very well, but I don't have a problem with him either. Every other weekend, my mom hosts a party for the whole family. There's food, decorations, music, etc. Everyone has a blast. A few months ago, my sister started acting kind of strange at these parties. Her husband isn't very social from what I can tell. He usually stands off to the side, sometimes without food. Lilia started making comments, usually to our immediate family, but sometimes to anyone who'll listen, about how Sean thinks the decorations look tacky, or Sean thinks the music is too loud. At first, it was basically harmless, but the comments got worse and worse. She started saying things like that outside of family parties, too. The weekend before last, she made small talk for a while before saying, Sean doesn't look like he's having a good time. I don't think he likes the food very much. I can't really blame him. We don't usually eat at low-class restaurants like yours. Her comments always pissed me off, but this pushed me pretty hard. My mom works really hard to make delicious food for these parties. She's a chef at Olive Garden. I guess my mom could tell I was getting upset, so she pulled me aside and told me not to say anything to Lilia, that it wasn't a big deal, stuff like that. I respected her wishes, even though I really wanted to stand up for her. Last week, Lilia called and said Sean's best friend is getting married. I'm a wedding planner, and she wants me to plan the wedding. I said sure. This weekend, Sean's best friend and his fiancée had a joint bachelor and bachelorette party. Lilia is a bridesmaid. She invited me to come along so I could meet the bride and groom and probably officially become their wedding planner. When I arrived at the club, Lilia immediately grabbed my wrist and pulled me to the bathroom. She said, Sean isn't happy. No one will take you seriously as a wedding planner if you dress like an intimacy lover. You embarrassed him, and now the groom will blame him for recommending a shitty planner. I had enough of her at that point. It felt like she was just using Sean as an excuse to voice her own opinions. I said, if Sean thinks I'm a shitty wedding planner for dressing normally for a damn club, he can get the groom a new wedding planner. I walked out and went home. Am I the jerk? Now for some comments. One commenter said, your sister is a seriously crappy person. She constantly complains about the work you and your mom do. She has the audacity to put the blame on her husband. Have you ever actually heard him say anything like this? I would be willing to bet she is the one with all the issues, and they are all reflective of her own insecurities. I replied, no, we don't normally talk, and as far as I can tell, he's never said anything like this. Another commenter suggested, walk up to him and directly tell him what your sister said and ask if he said it. Call him out. If he looks at you blankly or says, what are you talking about? Tell him your sister is making a fool of him and good luck. I responded, that's a good idea. Thank you. Someone else asked, What do you feel like might have been behavior here? I replied. My mom specifically said not to say anything about my sister's behavior. She has stage 4 cancer. I always do my best to respect her wishes because I don't know how much longer I'll be with her. Another commenter asked, is Sean ever happy? He sounds like someone who is happy because he's unhappy, if you get what I mean. Honestly, you dodged a bullet. There is no way you could make Sean or his friend happy planning their weddings. I said, he doesn't always look like he's happy or having a good time. Maybe he just doesn't like to look happy around a crowd or in public. Then another commenter said, why would you want to involve yourself deeper with miserable Sean and subject yourself to potentially being made to feel less than? Do you think he's suddenly going to become supportive and love all your party ideas? I replied, he's never directly said any of those comments to me, so I have no way of knowing if he actually said those things or not until I confront him. I figured it was a good work opportunity. Now for the update. I ended up inviting Sean and Lilia out to lunch. Lilia was still a little upset that I had dressed like an intimacy lover at the club, but mostly things went fine. Before we left, I asked Sean if he thought my outfit at the club was inappropriate. He said no. I asked if he thought my mother's cooking was bad. He said no again. This time he looked more confused. Before I could ask him about another comment, Lilia grabbed his arm and pulled him up. She said they had to go. Sean looked even more confused and told Lilia he wanted to hear what I was going to ask next. She looked visibly angry, and after I asked him if he thought the decorations were tacky, Lilia said, if you're not coming, I'm leaving without you. She ran to the car before either of us could stop her. Sean was really confused now and asked why I thought he didn't like the food, etc. I told him the whole story of how Lilia was telling me and my immediate family he was saying rude things. He looked completely shocked now. He said he never said any of those things and that he thinks the parties are wonderful. He explained he's just a little antisocial and gets nervous around people he doesn't know well, which I totally get. He apologized if anything he did was offensive, but I said there was no need for an apology. I gave him a ride home. Lilia took off with their car. When we got there, my sister's car wasn't in the driveway. I went to my mom's house next to drop off some stuff I had for her in the car. When I got there, Lilia's car was parked outside. She was sitting at the dining table crying, and my mom was doing her best to comfort her. When my sister saw me, she started crying even harder. I sat down and waited until she could calm down. When she finally did, I gently asked why she was saying all those things. Lilia said, I don't know. To make you hate him, I guess. My mom asked why she wanted us to hate him. She kept replying to our questions with, I don't knows, before admitting the truth. She said she'd been feeling jealous since our brother Eric got married. She felt like he was getting all the attention, especially when his wife announced her pregnancy. She also said Eric was always the golden child growing up, and she wanted people to notice her just this once. I never thought he was the golden child. In fact, Lilia seemed to be favored over him, but maybe I was too wrapped up in my own stuff to notice. My sister decided to stir up some drama to get the attention back on her. She used Sean because no one in the family knew him very well, and it was easy because he doesn't interact with a lot of people. She claims she wanted the attention so badly, even if it was negative. She wanted to see how far we'd let her go before one of us snapped. After a long talk, she promised never to do anything like this again, and admitted she mostly did all this out of resentment toward Eric for always stealing the spotlight. My mom promised to pay more attention to her, and she apologized if she ever made Lilia feel like Eric was better than her. We all hugged it out. Earlier tonight, Lilia called me and said she and Sean were going to try couples therapy, and she was going to get individual therapy for herself. I said I was happy for her, and she can come to me if she ever needs anything. I guess that's it. I'll update again if anything else happens. Now for a few comments. One commenter said, personally, I would never trust Lilia with anything ever again, especially because she craved attention so much she didn't care if it made her partner, a man she supposedly loves, into the bad guy. What's stopping her from doing that to any one of you if she could do that to the man she made vows with? Then another commenter added, I don't really like this response, to be honest. Lilia straight up admitted she wanted people to hate Sean for no reason, and she gets rewarded with love and more attention. In response, the original poster explained, my mom has stage 4 cancer, and we don't know how much longer she'll be here. I completely understand wanting this all to just be over and cherishing the time she has left with her daughter. But in a different situation, I 100% agree that this wouldn't be a great response. Another commenter advised, honestly, if I were you, I'd give your sister some LC space, because she's acted horribly to all of you and at her poor husband's expense. All because she didn't have enough attention. She needs help, and you need to stay away from her for a bit. She's just drama at this point. The original poster replied, I would, but I think a lot of this was caused by mom's declining health. I want to be there for all of my family if the worst were to happen. The commenter insisted, "You can still be there for your mom while keeping low contact with your sister. Stop making excuses for her." The original poster responded, "My mom wants all of us to be there for her as a family. If I went low contact, it would really hurt my mom and cause other damage to the family. I also think this is just Lilia's way of dealing with the grief of possibly losing our mom. It doesn't excuse her behavior, of course, but I can't go low contact now when she needs me." Another commenter added, "At the very least, Sean has to know. You all feel bound by blood in hard times, and there's nothing wrong with that. But he deserves the right to choose if he wants to spend his life with someone who would do something like this to him. That level of attention-seeking and all the reasons behind it need therapy." To which the original poster replied, "They're getting couples therapy, and she's getting individual therapy as well. Am I the idiot for ghosting my cheating ex-fiancé and blowing up her life with the truth?" I met my now ex-fiancé in my first year of college. We were both 18 and went from friends to lovers pretty quickly. We clicked so well, and everything was so easy and effortless. We had a really good relationship. It's the kind of relationship that everyone wishes they were in. The kind of relationship that people idolized and said, if those two broke up, then love doesn't exist. You get the picture. For the purpose of this post, let's call my ex Ashley. Ashley was everything I was looking for in a woman. Funny, smart, attractive, down-to-earth, and family-oriented. She wanted to build a life together. Our families got close over the course of our relationship. It was like we were already one big family before even getting married. As planned, I popped the question a year ago, not knowing that this would change everything. She said yes, of course, but things started to change. Slowly but surely, over the months, she became more distanced. I tried to ignore it and chalk it up to nervousness. You know, cold feet before taking the big marriage plunge. I should have trusted my instincts. She always went out with her group of friends on the weekends. I've been on these outings before. Usually it's clubbing and drinking. It's not my scene, but I trusted my girl, so I had no problem with her going without me. These outings became much more frequent after I popped the question. I tried to ignore my gut feeling that something was wrong about this. I should have listened. Last week, I got a text from one of her girlfriends. She said she feels super guilty about what's been going on. According to her, Ashley has been worried about getting married. She feels that she hasn't had a chance to explore other options, and the prospect of getting locked down for life made her really anxious. On these outings, she will frequently flirt with guys, dance with them, grind on them, make out with them to get it out of her system. Since she wasn't having intimacy with them, she didn't consider it cheating. According to the friend, she also gave one guy a BJ in the club bathroom. She sent me pictures and videos from some of those escapades. My heart sank. I felt like I died that day. I thanked the friend for telling me and told her to keep it between us. For me, any form of cheating is a big no-no. I knew it was over. What makes this worse is that I have a past with cheating. She knows about my high school ex who cheated on me, and being a stupid teenager, I tried to end it all. This just makes this whole situation cut even deeper. She knows how much hurt she could cause and still went ahead with it. I wanted to crawl into bed and cry for a month. I wanted to be weak. I felt weak. I decided I would give myself the chance to mourn and cry over this after I protect myself. Me and my fiancé share an apartment that we both pay rent for 50-50. I decided to take 2 days off work and covertly started to move my things out to my brother's house across the city. He knows about everything and immediately offered his place to me. The first day, I moved non-essential items out. When Ashley got back from work, she made a comment about it, but I brushed it off by saying I sold some stuff and took some more stuff to a storage unit to tidy and clear space up in our apartment. She didn't question it. I was furious on the inside about everything that I found out about, but kept cool to avoid suspicion. She noticed I was a bit withdrawn, but I told her I was just tired and stressed from work. The second day, while she was at work, my brother and his wife came over to help me pack everything else, and I was fully moved out by 3 p.m. that day. Since then, I have avoided every single form of communication sent by my ex. I have completely cut her off. I refuse to talk to her or her family. I don't even want to confront her about what happened. She came home that day and saw everything was gone. She texted all my friends and family, who in turn texted me, but I only responded to my parents, who are fully behind me and my decision. Her family and friends are blowing up my phone and saying that I'm an AH for leaving without a word. They've even been blasting me on social media. I don't really care. She knows what she did. To me, she is dead. She doesn't exist. Because of all this backlash, my brother and his wife are now also questioning if it was right of me to completely ignore everyone. This has caused me to doubt myself a bit, so here I am. Now for some comments. One commenter said, NTA for cutting her out, but honestly, you need to tell everyone she cheated. No point taking the blame for what she caused. Tell them, block them, move on. Another commenter added, NTA, Fiancé giving BJ in bathrooms to random dudes? Nah, dump and block is the only thing to do. Now for the one-day update. After an overwhelming amount of people screamed at me in the comments to speak out, I decided to break my silence. I didn't want to make this whole thing public. Despite what she did, some part of me still cares for her. I was with her for 6 years. You can't just throw that away overnight. I came to the conclusion that the right thing to do was to talk to her parents. Only her family needed to know. Everyone else can have whatever opinion they want of me. I don't care. The people who truly know me and are close to me are the only ones I care about. I sent a detailed message of what happened to my closest friends and family. All of them, of course, believed me right away. No pictures needed. I didn't feel like it was necessary or appropriate to spread those pictures of her, so I didn't. Now that the people I cared about were sorted, I moved on to her parents. I messaged her mom, who, by the way, I had gotten so close to, I considered her a second mom, and she considered me a son. She was very upset with me, but agreed to meet up. I felt like this needed to be an in-person conversation rather than a nuke I drop in an email with everyone they know CC'd. I met her mom and her dad at a diner we used to frequent for breakfast. I know, so cliché. It was quite emotional. They were understandably upset. They didn't do anything wrong, and I cut them out of my life, like nothing happened. I understood why they were upset, so when they were confronting me, I was very quiet, just listening, letting them get it all out. I admit I was tearing up with them. That is until they accused me of some things. It's been a whole week since all of this went down. In that week, a lot happened. Apparently, according to her parents, my ex convinced everyone that I cheated and that she kicked me out, and I haven't been answering anyone because I was so ashamed of what I had done. Lol. I literally laughed out loud. I responded by saying that I am sorry and I wish them a happy life, and walked out. I was so upset, I couldn't even have imagined being accused of this. What a joke. I can't believe her parents would believe her and throw me under the bus so fast. I walked out because I'm pretty sure I would have said some things I'd regret to her parents. I didn't want to do this, but she left me no choice. I activated the nuclear option. I went home, made an email titled, "For your reading pleasure," and attached every picture her friend sent me, including screenshots of the chat with her friend, where she expressed how guilty she felt about the cheating. I also attached the videos of her grinding and making out with other guys. I included a long explanation detailing everything that has happened since D-Day. I ended the email by saying that I do not wish to be contacted and that I expect my ring back at some point. I attached her, her parents, any friend I could think of, and a coworker that I just so happened to know as well. Frick it. So that's where I'm at now. I may be the jerk for sending that email, but she really tested my freaking limits when I found out what she was telling people. I have zero regrets. Currently crashing at my brother's place on the pull-out couch. He's helping me get through this, as much as one can, I guess. Who knows what kind of fallout that email will create. Either way, I'm going to sit back and enjoy it with popcorn whilst sobbing. Now for the 2-month update. I wanted to take a quick moment to thank everyone that reached out to me and offered kind words of support and advice. The reason it took me 2 months to be able to come back here and write an update is because so much has happened in such a short span of time that even I'm having trouble processing it. The fallout after I sent that nuke of an email was catastrophically hilarious. My phone was blowing up with my ex's friends and family asking me tons of questions. Before I had sent that email, everyone was under the impression that I was a cheater and was kicked out. That email not only cleared my name, it basically turned everyone against my ex. Rumors of what had happened started circulating at her job. Apparently, she couldn't take the embarrassment and ended up quitting. Her parents were less than impressed and refused to take her back in. They reached out to me and apologized for the way things went down. They recognized that they didn't have all the facts and judged me too quickly. I'm cool with them now. They told me that my ex was struggling to make payments for her half of the rent. When I covertly moved out, I contacted our landlord and explained the situation. We only had 3 months left on the lease, so I paid my half for those 3 months, so I'm in the clear. Honestly, it was worth it, even though I'm not living there. Our mutual friends also didn't take too kindly to being lied to, and basically being manipulated to hate me. From what I've heard, most of our shared friends don't talk to her anymore. Even some of her girlfriends, who knew what had been happening behind my back, stopped talking to her, which is a little ironic if you ask me. I guess now that everything was public, no one wanted to be associated with her. And speaking of her friends, remember the one that initially came forward to me about this because she felt so bad? Yeah, so we're dating now. I guess through all the trauma, drama, and craziness, we started texting more and more. At first, she was just very supportive. She comforted me and helped me come to terms with what happened. But slowly and surely, we became closer and closer and started to talk about our lives, our interests, our dreams. We realized we had a lot in common. We are also both single and young. We kind of just fell right into it naturally. She's honestly so great, very kind and loving. I am aware that some people may think this is just a rebound, but I'm really enjoying my time with her and things are going great. I feel great. Since everything went down, I have had no contact with my ex. I've heard through multiple friends that she is livid that I ghosted her and won't even talk to her. She says what I'm doing to her is torture because I won't even give our relationship closure. I just laughed because if she thinks what I'm doing is torture, then she's clueless about what she put me through. I'm honestly good. I will go the rest of my life without ever talking to her again. Call me petty, call me dumb. I am who I am, and I feel this is right. As for me, life is looking good. I'm dating an amazing girl. I've gotten so much support from my family and friends. It's nice to see who the real ones are. You know, the ones that actually stuck with me throughout this whole ordeal. And best of all, I feel like I'm really moving on from this whole thing. Hope this update gives you all closure. So many of you messaged me needing an update. It just took me a sec to gather myself to be able to write this in the midst of all this craziness. Take care of yourselves. Now for a few comments. Someone asked if he got the ring back. OP responded, I did. I had to threaten legal action. My ex was stubborn, but I ended up getting my ring back through her parents, lol.